So I think the first conversation we want to have is an important one for us. And I think this conversation is titled Paradigm Paralysis. But really it's the Nexus Model. It's the fundamentals of what I think we believe about the nature of change, I think really is
and the need for it.
And the need for it, right. And actually the inevitability of it.
Yes.
I think is the reality, right? And so maybe let's unpack the model for a second, and let's just kind of, I think for those watching the conversation, there's all sorts of ways you can apply this model.
Yeah.
I think we know that, right? There's personal levels, there's organizational levels, there's cultural levels, absolutely. So we're not going to dictate how that's interpreted, I think, in this conversation. Let's just open it up, because I think it's really important, especially when we know we're about developing people and developing leaders to step into the new, right? So, go.
I was just thinking, for me, this model it's like, it really helps with orientation.
Okay.
Because my first exposure to this as an idea and as a graphic was with you guys, looking at it going, okay, I knew what I was experiencing. I'm thinking now organizationally, in multiple areas that I was engaged in. And I was introduced to this model by you guys, and it really helped me understand and orient where I was in the change process, because I could see I was experiencing that paradigm paralysis moment because people around me were, but I had a vision for that next moment. And it really, so it helped me locate myself. It also helped me situate myself within my environment, and then also in terms of recognizing that this wasn't a me problem, but it was actually, as you said, change is inevitable. So this is cyclically a thing that occurs.
Correct.
That was helpful for me to know that this isn't just something that I'm struggling with or I don't fit in here. It was like, oh no, there is something coming and I feel that and I want to be a part of bringing it about. And there's a way to think about it and look at it that's not like a personal problem or makes me feel like I need to move to a new environment or disengage from where I am. It was helpful to understand just, do you know what I mean, in terms of situating myself?
Yeah. Well, and I think the reality is, if you only look at half of the model, you could see a problem.
Yeah.
But if you take entirety of the whole model, we're talking around, we'll get to the model in a second, but you take the whole model, it's actually solution oriented. Yeah. It's focused on these opportunities.
It's helping you to keep going,
Absolutely. Right, in the midst of it.
It's productive.
Yeah. So maybe the good place to start is, so how do we get here to the model? So it's a blend of multiple models, right? So in preparation for Nexus being built and turning into what it is, there's plenty of research around these models. It's a mix of a model of the diffusion of innovation, the innovation process, of life cycle of a product, of bell curves and reinvent. Like it's there's lots of different models and different proposals out there. And so the Nexus model now becomes almost a blend of those. And we think something that helps you navigate moving into new things. Because ultimately that's what we're about, aren't we?
Ultimately that's what everyone needs eventually.
Absolutely. Yeah. So people listening to this conversation, they've got access to the model. You'll have that in front of you, hopefully. And so let's walk through it, And so I think what's helpful to understand is that this first part of the model, this kind of light blue area of the model is the existing. It's this existing state, this existing place, or existing thing that you're a part of, or stage within your life. This existing thing has gone through this period of introduction. It's been a new thing at some point.
It's grown.
Yeah. It's gone through a process of growth, and it's entered into a process and a moment and a phase of maturity. So it's operating. It's in reality.
All good things.
All good things. All great things. But I think, when we look at the model a bit closer, you'll see there's an input here. And the input here for the light blue line is this idea of crisis. So pressure, things get hard, things aren't always...
Or things aren't working.
They're not working. Or the thing that was super relevant and was really taking hold and growing well is now maybe losing its innate relevance, or it's just natural
and that's
connection.
It's an inevitable outcome because culture change, people
change,
relationships change, 100%. Everything moves on. Like you can't expect things to remain relevant and appropriate forever in that sense. Yeah.
But there's the danger, right? If you then take half of the model, you think that crisis is the bad thing. It's the oh no,
or the end.
Or it's the end, or we can't. We're under threat, and so what you tend to do is protect the existing. Like it's like double down, right?
Yeah.
So push through, work harder, hope keep this thing together that we've had because it's been good.
It's been good.
It's been good. It is good.
Yeah.
But it probably won't continue to stay at the level of effectiveness. Effectiveness and relevance that it once was, and it needs to be moving into the future.
And it's familiar. Like not only has it worked, but it's familiar. You're comfortable with it,
Yeah, of course.
So when that happens, you want it to keep going because that becomes easy to keep it doing it.
Right.
And you might associate success with it or good times.
Yeah, good times. You've had good history with it. I mean, they're all great things.
Yeah.
But that crisis moment then poses a question.
Yeah. So I guess here in the model for us is there's another line, there's this dark blue line, which is the new. The new expression, the new version, the new thing. And what we're proposing is that we believe that these new things need to start to build momentum in parallel or in connection with these existing ideas or these existing things that are in and around our lives. And so
especially if you look at the graph, growth is difficult. It usually requires a lot of effort. You're driving it somewhere, but maturity comes with some ease. You've leveled out a little bit. You're not pushing as hard. And in that moment, if you turn and think, okay, where is the next thing coming from? Where you can apply a bit of effort while you've got the momentum of maturity. That's a great place to be in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you talk, Michael, about this in terms of a practical example in the independent film industry?
The one that I know.
Ground this.
Well, in filmmaking, you have like the big production houses that have huge risk with huge money, and they need everything to work really well. They can't have it waste all the money. So they fund independent filmmaking to take all the risk, small amounts of money, and they hope that some of that will generate new ideas to be brought into the big production houses.
Sure.
That's the idea, which they can then do with some level of safety. But they can also take the next level. They can make the next jump to do new things while not taking all the risk to try and discover them. Whereas independent filmmaking, 50% or more fail. And that's okay when it's small money. It's not okay with the big risk.
Sure. But there's got to be a commitment then, right? To start to experiment, to innovate, to try the new. And while something is still in existence. So it's
intentional.
It's intentional, right? So you can wait till the film industry dies before you try a new type of film, right? Or you could actually launch it and say, no, we need to.
We've got a bunch of stuff going really well.
Right.
Now let's fund some stuff to see what's next.
And let's be often we wait too long.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
And then you're at what point?
Well, now we're in decline, right?
Yeah.
Now we're really in crisis. Crisis has turned from this isn't quite going how we thought, into full free fall at some point.
It's an opportunity. To either embrace change or fail to embrace change and decline.
So the organizational example of this, which is I think a clear one, connected to film industry actually in a sense, is Kodak is an amazing example of a failure of this. Okay. So because I think we need to understand what happens when we don't embrace the new as well. Right? Because
when it's there and you ignore it.
Right. Yes. And so, Kodak in the 70s, charging ahead, right? Doing well, big company doing big things, right? Really one of the largest in the world. They innovate and have the patent for digital photography.
So they're literally doing the new projects on the side.
Literally doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. They've got maturity and they're doing the new things.
So they're doing it. So there's the initial model of it working. But here's the crisis moment where Kodak fail.
Yeah.
They have that in their back pocket, and in the 70s they refuse to back themselves into the new beyond generating the concept because they fundamentally misunderstand why they exist. So they think they're in the business of selling film. But actually, Kodak is in the business of helping people capture memories, right?
Sure.
And so what they do is they say, no, because if we develop digital photography, we can't sell film anymore. So this is the holding on.
Yeah, and identity. If that's our identity, what do we have?
Correct. So this is the holding on to the old. We had great days. We've sold so much film and it's been great and how wonderful. And look what we built with it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what happens, that the terrible part of that story is that Kodak ends up actually literally destroying itself to the point where Kodak really only exists today, selling a very few amount of products, and they're selling like printers and things like photographic. They're gone. They don't exist anyway, to the point where they were so synonymous that taking a photo was called a Kodak moment.
Yeah.
Like this is the fall, right? This is the fall from complete relevance into obscurity. Because so we're not saying this is easy.
No.
Right?
No, but I think what you've identified there in terms of people's like hesitancy or reluctance to release what feels like their identity.
Yeah.
Like that's where this process or this model can be so applicable across contexts within an individual, within an organization or a culture, because I think that grapple with identity and the fear of kind of letting that be a malleable or an evolving thing is so real for people.
Sure. Absolutely.
Groups of people and individuals.
And you can't underestimate the value of courage.
Yeah.
So that's the new input, right?
Yeah.
So the other part of the model here, so if the input is crisis, the big input piece here is courage.
Yeah.
Now,
because Kodak probably didn't have the courage to step into that new.
Right.
They've got a research and development area, developing brand new ideas that could take them forward.
Yep.
But you still got to have the courage to step into it.
Right, because there is risk involved.
Yeah, correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is our moment where our link, which is strong, is courage is not just, you can't just generate courage externally. It has to come through leadership.
Sure.
So actually the courageous leadership that's necessary to take a reinvention, to take something into the new is serious and significant. And why, you know, one of our catchphrases around here is change is here and it needs a new type of leader.
Yeah.
It's not change is coming in the future. It's right upon us. Right. Whether you're noticing or not, it's happening.
Totally.
And if you don't notice it and do something about it, it's going to catch you up and it'll probably move past you. But it needs a new type of leader, a leader that has the capacity to lead with the courage to say, we need to set course in this direction. Now, that's not abandoning the existing and saying, go away, off you go, we're just doing the new. It's a so what you see here is the orange shaded part in the model with those three lines. That is paradigm paralysis.
Yeah.
And that is that feeling where you're stuck between the two. Yeah. You're stuck between what you know and the existing and the new. And you can feel stuck to the point where you don't quite know what to do about it.
Yeah.
You know there's an alternative. You know there's a better way. You know there's a new thing. You're just so also aware of the existing and what's at stake that you can actually feel completely paralyzed in the midst of the two.
In the in-between,
And so I think, you know, and again, this can be relevant personally, professionally, organizationally, that this stuck feeling, this space in between what was and what is a real genuine sense of paralysis that we can find ourselves in.
Yeah, no condemnation on Kodak. I've lived it.
Oh, absolutely.
Me too.
It's a real example that we see repeated all and you know over and over again.
Yeah.
Right. And so that needs overcoming that point. And so for us, the Nexus in Project Nexus, the Nexus point is if we could just find leadership that would be able to lead with courage to take that on, we believe that these two lines converge.
Yeah.
And our hope is that the decline is never fully realized, but that a reinvention and a stepping into the new can happen together with the existing. With the new, that a renewed sense of relevance, a renewed sense of purpose and drive for whatever can actually be seen coming into the future.
That continual upward motion, right? It's not that then the existing, like you just said, the existing is cut off and the new completely takes over. It's that there's a movement in the same direction, whereas the existing thing adopts some of the innovative practices of the new. then that new becomes a little bit further away, and there's a movement upward as a whole.
Yeah. We would also say that the best way for this to happen is in team.
Sure.
And the reason why I bring it up here is because permission is powerful here.
Yeah.
Not just for the leader to know that they have permission, but for people to give permission. It's not all about one leader.
Yeah.
And so if you want a leader to have courage, have leaders around them, give them courage.
Yeah.
Also take the courage with them, but the permission to step into it, not just with one person doing it, carrying it all on their one shoulder, but having a group of people around them, an organization, can be done. That's a powerful thing now. To step into that next moment, to really chase the new thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing I think that's really helpful relationally when it comes to this model is the fact that this takes what feels frustrating and what feels like a problem or a flaw, and it externalizes it away from people. Because I think when you're in paradigm paralysis, you can, and if you're an innovator or you have innovative thoughts about things, you can feel like the problem is with people, and you can become really resentful, and you can isolate yourself, and you can say they have a problem that they're not doing anything about.
You can point to the other.
Absolutely. And we do it all the time. And again, I have absolutely been there. But the helpful thing about this model then is when you realize that this is just the nature of things. And it actually has nothing to do with people being ignorant or people being, some of the degradation that can come from frustration. It takes that problem and it helps you understand that it doesn't lie within a group of people. It's actually just the nature of change and the nature of the way things are.
Because this is not intended to be a way to judge a problem and to go, you failed this way. It's intended to be uplifting, to say, no, this is how we can solve the problem.
Not to be like, wow, you guys really, and that is something you see. And that's not helpful because if you're actually innovating for the good of people who are going to adopt those practices, you don't want to stand there and be criticizing.
Totally. And it's always an option. Like if you feel like you're in decline and that you've got no options, you just hunt around for some ideas. It doesn't have to be all about you. Bring in teams, bring in others. They can help you to solve that and then renew and get to the new.
So renewal is possible. It's going to take some courage. It's going to take some leadership. And it's going to take explaining and understand the nature of things and the nature of change ultimately to be able to springboard you into the new. But for some people who've never even thought about this concept, this is a starting point. Where are you going to apply it? Where do you see yourself in that story or that model? Do you see yourself personally? Do you see yourself professionally or organizationally? Where are you within the cycle of the nature of things? That's the initial building block for this series of conversations in Spark. If we can start to see ourselves in it, start to think about ourselves as how can we now play our part? Where are we? And how does it fit to what we actually want to see happen in the world? That's our first building block.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. That's our starting point.
Cool.
Yeah, good.
Thanks, guys.